This could ruffle some feathers and make some people mad.
Some people are saying that if you shoot a compound bow, you're not a real archer. It's just like shooting a rifle. What do you think?
I think a compound bow has an arrow and you're shooting that arrow as a projectile. So I think it's categorized as a bow. And it is archery. It's just a different form of archery, and you shouldn't necessarily criticize someone for having a different preference than you.
Some people saying that you're not really shooting a traditional bow if it has fiberglass in it. It's not a true primitive traditional bow.
I mean, it depends your goal. Is your goal like historically accurate, correct, exact bow from a specific time period? Then there's probably not fiberglass in it. But I categorize traditional bows as something that doesn't have a mechanical advantage with cams on it like a compound bow. So anything that's just stick and string, fiberglass and string, whatever you want to say, I think it's a traditional bow. That's my view on it. I could be wrong. There could be something in the technicalities, but I don't care about that technicality as much as enjoying archery.
What's the point of shooting gap? And that just like using compound, you might as well just put sights on your bow if you're shooting gap, right?
Yeah, no, this is probably from somebody who hasn't shot gap, who hasn't shot instinctive, and who hasn't shot compound altogether. Like, think about, instead of having a pin on your compound bow, you stuck an arrow to the side, basically. You have so much more room for error even when you're shooting gap. And the arrow is also going so much slower. So the thickness of the point of the arrow would be the thickness of like between a 20 and a 40-yard pin. So you've got 20 yards of variance with the thickness of the arrow. Now take into consideration that the bow's shooting 200 feet per second or 170 feet per second instead of 300 feet per second. So your trajectory is dropping so much more. And so now there's so much more variability. It is completely different and much harder to shoot tight groups, even shooting gap, than it is a compound bow, although they're both fun. So no, it's not the same. Anybody who shot a bow in all of history had an arrow on the bow. So they had the opportunity to use that arrow as an aiming point. What is wrong with that? Just tell me what's wrong with that. And if you prefer to shoot instinctive, I've done that for 6 years. I just don't need more because I'm worse.
Building a bow with power tools, that means you're not a real traditional bowyer, right? That's what the people are saying. Why are you using power tools? Doesn't that take away from the experience of building a traditional bow?
Yes, it can. Here's the thing. I built my first 20 or 30 bows with no power tools, no camera, me as a kid, in my dad's garage with 2 tools, just sawing wood because the Christmas party was boring me. That's a very fun way to do it. So you gotta find the method that's the most fun for you. There's something very nostalgic, there's something very fun about just using hand tools, and I think that's a really good way to do it. But if you're doing a different method, it doesn't mean you're right nor wrong, and it doesn't mean your bow is worse quality. If you're using power tools, as a matter of fact, your bow's probably better quality because you have templates, you have specific tolerances, and this allows you to have more consistency in bow making, which is what I'm looking for when I'm offering bows and selling them to other people. But if I'm going to turn off the world and go on vacation, I'm bringing hand tools to make an Osage orange sinew-backed bow by myself, and you guys will never know about that, but I will enjoy that personally.
Some people are saying you've broken so many bows. Why should you be teaching if you've broken so many bows, let alone selling bows?
Ooh, good question. 2 factors here. 1, my goal is to break as many bows as possible because then I learn as quick as possible. So I will purposely do something wrong to see what the bow's ultimate tolerance is. For example, we drew one of our bones on the tillering tree down to 42-inch draw to see if it would break. The limbs didn't even break, the tip overlay actually popped off. So we're like, okay, we've got the weak point. How can we enhance the quality of the glue? How can we improve this so the tip overlay doesn't split out? And so since I sell things, I test them beyond what people could imagine to failure, and then I sell it. Here's the thing. I try to not have an ego, and so I post all failures online. As a matter of fact, I'm more likely to post a failure than a success because I don't like to brag. And then another thing on top of that is the Will at Bow series is grabbing a bunch of junk and trying to make bows from them. So the goal isn't in those series to make a great bow. Well, that's the goal, but I'm using materials that are less than positive. So I like to challenge myself, and I can probably confidently say in the history of the past 20 years, I'm probably in the top 1% of people who have broken the most bows.
People are saying you shouldn't use a CNC machine to build traditional bows.
It depends on the goal, and if the goal is business, if I didn't use the CNC machine, I probably would be out of business and nobody would get any information, content, or bows from me. The goal of Shatterproof Archery is to help more people enjoy more archery, and that's what we're doing actively. But if you don't have a profitable business, you're not going to be doing it long term. So I have to charge money, and I have to get the equipment that can produce these things in the time frames that are profitable, or else, I mean, I could just make bows and make videos and live as a YouTuber, but I wanted to offer awesome products. And so if you're frustrated that I'm using a CNC, I have some really cool bow companies that make things in a different way that I could refer you to if you want one of theirs.